Simpin Ain't Easy 12 Steps to Embracing Common Sense and Rejecting Stupidity. Read by me, authored by me, Vincent Gervasi. Introduction. One of my life goals was to be able to publish a memoir. To say I published a book would be a feather in my hat. I believe that we've all considered writing a memoir at some point in life. Well, I'm not any more special than the next person. I'm just putting down my thoughts regarding my life experiences. A lot of what is in the following pages are some of the shittiest moments of my life. Periods where my decision making had really sunk me into deep holes, physically, psychologically, and emotionally. I've also included details about the work I had to do to dig myself out of those holes. The 30 years I'll recall were spent in and out of an alcoholic cloud, so the memories may not be completely accurate. Another thing to consider is that this is a one-sided story. I didn't interview or reach out to anyone to get their side of the story. Honestly, I don't care about their side. You could say I'm being selfish. Well, yes, it's my book and it's my perspective and my experience. What I would say to anyone who disagrees with the contents of this book is this. I challenge you to write your own book, recounting the stories illustrated in this masterpiece if you feel the need for a rebuttal. There are no conventions in this book. I'm going on strictly memory. I'll be bouncing around from the early years in my life to the late teens to now at 50 plus years of age. Sometimes, when expressing your ideas, you must look to the past to solve current issues. I'll reference and misquote everything in this book. I'm not looking to be chronologically accurate on who said and did what. However, I will attempt to express the meaning I received from the people smarter than me on the various subjects I've written on. In addition, I'll be speaking in generalities based on my experiences over the last 30 years. With that understanding, don't take anything written as a personal attack on you. However, if something that is said stings you, you might consider looking in the mirror and sorting out your feelings with a therapist. From time to time, I'll break the fourth wall. I may inject a thought or two as I am writing in real time. Well, as real time as it can get as I'm writing. I'll encapsulate random thoughts in parentheses where there will be no political correctness. At times, I'll be sarcastic, although sarcasm rarely translates well into text, and vulgar, but never crass. Much of what are in these pages I've mulled over for 30 years, sometimes revisiting situations to gain a new perspective on current events. So what qualifies me to write a book on simping? Well, life experience, the ability to think, and literacy qualify me to write a book. These are my experiences. You can agree, disagree, or use these sheets in this book as toilet paper. It doesn't matter. These are my experiences and how I've interpreted life to get me here today, writing this book. I'll try to keep things in chronological order. However, as stated in the previous paragraph, in dealing with issues today, I may have to revert back to prior experiences to see if there is a lesson learned. I'm not going out of my way to throw anyone under the bus. I won't explicitly out any of the people I've been in the relationships with. So when discussing romantic involvement, I will just refer to them as girlfriend number X. They can keep their anonymity and I can avoid a lawsuit unless they want to out themselves. However, just a reminder, court records are public. I'll definitely be dropping names and or shoutouts. Shoutouts may also include public figures who have done some stupid shit. Furthermore, if you have been or provided a thoughtful perspective and or influence, you will be noted as such by name. These individuals may be personal friends or internet influencers who have given me a different perspective on life. As mentioned earlier, I'll most likely misquote the shit out of them, but by no means do I mean any disrespect. I'm just too fucking lazy to cite everyone in this book. However, I will provide a list at the back of the book so you can research it yourself. Maybe you can pull some pearls of wisdom from their teachings. Almost every influencer I've watched or read has said this statement in one way or another. Life fucking sucks. It's how you respond to it that separates you from the rest of humanity. What does this mean? I've interpreted it as this: humans are miserable creatures. In general, we always look to complain about something. I'm no different. Many of the people who are closest to me have heard me utter the words, if I'm not bitching about something, then there's something wrong. There's so much to unpack in that last statement. The short version is, for most of my youth, till about my mid 30s, I was a miserable human being. Most of all, it was self inflicted. In my later years, when my old behaviors began to creep back in, I had to take stock and revisit some old teachings learned 20 years prior. So you really have to work hard to change your stripes. It isn't easy to untangle your misery and try to be a good human being. It's even harder to be virtuous and not a simp. So, why did I title this book Simpin Ain't Easy? I think it's first important to define the word simp. Merriam Webster defines simp as follows: a foolish or stupid person, simpleton. Forrest Gump, the smash movie starring Tom Hanks as a sweet simp from Alabama who rides to fame and fortune on an IQ of 75 by Peter Travers. The line inching up the bottom of the chart shows the pitiful returns for the simps whose investments are taxed every year. Virginia Wilson. It has always been difficult to grasp how Louise, a simp, in the first 2/3 of the show, could become such a swan in the final act. Hidden now. Urban Dictionary defines a simp as follows: a word that everyone overuses without the correct definition. It means a guy that is overly desperate for a woman, especially if she is a bad person or has expressed her disinterest in him, whom he continues to obsess over. They're usually just virgins that will accept coochie, also known as pussy, from anyone, regardless who they are. This is how I define a simp as it pertains to my own life experience. Investing time, money, and emotional and physical energy for little to no return on investment. Now that we all have a clear understanding of the definition, we can see where I've bounced in and out of these different forms of simpness, choosing the wrong people or just plain being ignorant. In this context, I will lay out some of the bad choices I've made in my life and the consequences that followed in pursuit of affection, attention, and affirmation. Maybe I can illustrate how I've 12-stepped my way out of these scenarios. So sit back and enjoy the ride.